On this day, exactly 5 years ago, the Deeper Life Ladies Seminar was also happening. I remember it because I was not able to attend that day. I was 5 days overdue with my third child, and I was at home just across the road here, and I remember mowing the whole lawn that day, in between sipping on my midwife's brew, trying to get this labor started, and it worked. Mid-afternoon, I went into labor, and Autumn Bell was born that evening around 10 p.m., October 5th. So I have a little girl at home celebrating her 5th birthday, and I'm not there with her, which is kind of sad, but no worries. I will be celebrating her. We have a party planned for tomorrow night, because that's just what I do. I throw parties. When people ask me what my hobby is, I don't really know what to say. I don't do the fancy stuff like sourdough or read or crochet. I throw parties. It's literally what I do for fun. I threw my first party, I think I was age 10. This is a true story. I came home from school and told my mom that she and Dad were going to have to stay in their room until a little bit later on. I have people coming. It was a surprise party for their anniversary. I had called ladies from church and asked them to bring food, and they did. Like, we had a party. So, yeah, I'm just showing you a couple more of my party pics here. My oldest is turning 10 next spring. I don't think she'll be throwing any parties. So what if you're not like me? What if you're looking at me thinking, okay, she's one of those people. She throws the fancy parties, and that's just not me. I am plain Jane. I like to host, but it's usually stressful for me, and I feel like a dunce, honestly. I usually blow it. And maybe you're kind of good at it, but you're not like me, and you don't just love it, and it's not your strong point. I am super excited today. I have so much hope for you. But it's not because of me, it's because of someone I'm going to introduce to you. This is someone that she was actually named America's favorite housekeeper. And I'm sure, obviously, we can learn from America's favorite housekeeper what gave her that title. I am convinced all of you have actually heard of this lady, heard the name, and most of you might actually have a book about her already on your bookshelf. I'm going to throw a picture of her up on the screen and yell out her name if you recognize her. Amelia Bedelia. You can imagine my surprise when one day I went to my bookshelf and picked out a book about Amelia Bedelia, and on the back, in very plain words, it calls her America's favorite housekeeper. Okay, so tell me some things about Amelia Bedelia right off the bat. Can you think of anything? Yeah, she messes up. Yeah? Okay, her famous lemon pie. She's good at desserts. She's an airhead. And she doesn't mess it up just once in a while. She messes it up every single time. One thing I can appreciate about her is that she does care about the fact that she messed up. She wants to learn and improve. Like, she seems genuinely sorry when she messed up, but she's gonna try to learn how she can do this better. I actually don't want this up on the screen.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
So you'll get it then?
Yeah. Another thing, have you ever noticed how in the pictures of her, she still looks cheerful. Like, she's still smiling at the end of the fiasco. Like, she just always has this pleasant grin on her face. So, yeah, she apologizes about her mistake. She seems genuinely sorry, but she moves on. In one of the stories about Amelia Bedelia, Great Aunt Myra was a fancy relative coming to see Mr. and Mrs. Rogers, and they really wanted to impress her. This was a big deal. Amelia Bedelia really needed to get it right. Of course, that wasn't going to happen because, remember, she always messes it up. So Great Aunt Myra comes, and Amelia Bedelia does her thing, and of course, Mrs. Rogers is horrified, but Great Aunt Myra seems to be kind of getting a bang out of it, and by the end, she said, that Amelia Bedelia really knows how to make a body feel at home. And she goes on to say that she thinks she'll be coming back. So showing our humanness helps people feel at home. Like, Great Aunt Myra felt at home there because Amelia Bedelia wanted her there, and she was just showing her humanness. I have a true story here that I'm going to read with names changed. I thought the lady of this story was going to be here today. I'm bummed she's not. I asked her permission to share it. It was a Christmas letter that I got from her last year. True story. When John was holding a Bible study with our friend Cody in the living room one evening while I was washing the supper dishes, he innocently requested hot tea. Ben quickly wanted his own cup, and since I was in a particularly magnanimous mood, I filled a whole teapot of hibiscus tea to steep for the children. When it was ready, I handed a mug to him. He didn't realize that it already held tea and lifted it in a great swooping motion. Hot tea flew everywhere, drenching his shirt and chest. I quickly removed his shirt amidst the howling cries and rushed him upstairs as discreetly as it is possible to rush a half-naked siren. Once we got him tended to and well salved, I came down to clean up the bright pink sticky tea off the floor and cabinets, but instead I found Jimmy, who had crawled into the pantry, had found an irresponsible brother's egg bucket and was having a glorious scrambled egg party. As I headed upstairs with him, I saw Billy and Sam running to and fro in the midst of the Bible study, trying to catch an elusive white gerbil. I peeled off Jimmy's gooey clothes, gave him a bath, and put him to bed so he couldn't wreck anything else. I also snagged Susie and popped her in bed just to reduce numbers. When I got back downstairs, the Bible study was over, Cody had helped catch the gerbil, and that amazing John had finished washing the dishes, cleaned up the eggs, and was almost finished mopping the floor. By 9:30 that evening, I was ready for our overnight company. 2 fine young ladies from PA. We trust that there is a moral to be found in evenings like this. I admit that I have not been able to think of one yet. Do you feel this with her? I mean, don't you just feel sorry for the lady? You've all had a situation kind of like that. When I asked her permission to share this story, she said, yeah, sure. She said, maybe I can come because obviously I don't have this hosting thing down pat. And I don't really blame her for saying that, but that's usually what we say to ourselves. When a fiasco like this happens, we think, I just don't have this together. I don't have my life together. What's wrong with me? I am here to tell you that the lady in this story was an amazing host. She was being an absolutely amazing host. She let her husband have a Bible study the same night she was getting overnight company. She was serving tea to her husband and all her children. She was washing up dishes from the supper that she'd probably worked hard to make. Okay, she didn't do it wrong. Now, there may be just like a few little things she can think about to make this not happen again, because that was not fun. She's going to try really hard to keep that egg basket up high where the toddler can't get to it. Maybe, you know what, maybe it's time to get rid of the gerbil. Like, he's been getting out a lot lately. There might be something really little she can think about to make so that doesn't happen again. But these kinds of situations do not make you a bad host. We often look at others more kindly than we do ourselves in situations like these. We feel so much love for this poor lady. But when it happens to us, we just think we're so bad at hosting. We often watch someone else who's busily working in their kitchen as they're hosting and treat them much more kindly than we treat ourselves. Be kind to yourself. Talk to yourself like you would to your own daughter. Would you bash her if you saw her working as hard as you are? Would you not feel so much love and compassion towards her? You're doing great. Listen, hosting is work. It involves some level of stress. I mean, think of it. You're making food, likely several dishes. You're trying to get your house clean. You may have children that are interrupting you many times a day and undoing your cleaning. Or maybe you're a senior who finds it hard to move around. Or maybe you're a single who has a full-time job plus a house to keep up with. You might have a husband that wants things of you. You're also thinking about how can you make this enjoyable for your guest. You want nice conversation that will flow. You want them to feel comfortable and loved. Oh, and you're supposed to stay calm through all of this. It's a lot. It's going to be work, and it's probably going to come with some level of stress. Just because you feel stressed doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Now, we're trying to reduce that stress as much as possible because it sure isn't a feeling we like. And we tend to act in ways we'd rather not act when we're in that stress. We can do little things to try to make it easier on ourselves, but let's not think that we're trying to get to the point where we perfectly figure this out to the point of not having any stress in our lives. Just a side note here, the people that make hosting look easy and that you consider the strong people in your life, they don't necessarily just have an easy pass. It's work for them too. It's true that we're made up differently and hospitality might come more naturally for some of us than others, for sure. But maybe they've just learned a few things that you haven't yet in this particular area. You can learn from them, watch them. What do they do that has gotten them to where you want to be? This is not a time to be threatened by them or intimidated or feel less than them. Look at them positively, like, what can I learn from her? Another side note is to look out for the strong people in your life. Who takes care of the deacon's wife, for example, or the lady who seems to have it all together? They really don't have it all together and don't want you to think that just because they're handling this well means it's super easy for them, or that somehow it's not work for them. It's work for all of us. So back to trying to get this stress down as much as possible. We want to avoid what Kendra Adachi calls big black trash bag energy. Do you know what that is? Big black trash bag energy is the one you might get when you're walking through your house and there's toys everywhere and everything is in shambles and your life is falling apart and we're just going to go through and we are out with all of it. Whew. And we do that with our systems. We think, okay, this system that I have is not working for me. I need a new planner, or I need to find the magic formula that will keep this from happening again. We want to avoid the all or nothing mentality. I used to be that all or nothing perfectionist in my housekeeping. When we first got married, I would spend hours cleaning my teeny little apartment where only the two of us lived. And then I started having children, and I went the other extreme where I was like, well, if I can't do this perfectly, I'm in a season right now where I can't clean at all. And I feel like now what I'm working towards is that middle ground where I'm not a perfectionist, but I still try. I do my best. This is a difference that I think I have seen in generations. I think the seniors here, like your generation, was taught that keeping house, making food, that is like so important, and it's a part of having a high level of excellence. And then I think maybe around my generation came along and said, okay, but housework is not, like, my house is not what's important. Relationships are important. So we don't need to care anything about our house. So what does matter? If we feel completely overwhelmed, should we just say that none of the house stuff matters? I was talking to my sister-in-law about this, and she said that in her mind, hospitality and a clean house are two separate things, and she's right. A dictionary definition for hospitality is the friendly and generous reception and entertainment of guests, visitors, or strangers. That mentions nothing about a clean home. But the thing is, those two different things meet together so many times. Usually when we are giving hospitality, it's in our homes. And the state of our house does affect the experience of our guests. We don't want people to be genuinely grossed out at our house. It's an act of politeness to at least try to make the environment inviting to be in. It is hospitable to try to make our guests comfortable here. That being said, if you find yourself in one of those nightmare situations where your house is in shambles and you're caught, lay that aside, because at that point, there is nothing to do except pour on the hospitality. That happened to me just real recently. My aunt one time said that she's been to a very nice place where the house was beautiful, the food was lovely, everything was just right. And when she left, she thought, oh, that was so refreshing. And she's also left from being at a very simple, nothing fancy house and left and thought, oh, that was so refreshing. The point is, give what you have to offer, no matter if it's very nice or just nice and simple. If you find yourself in a very nice house and God has blessed you financially, use that space to bless others. If you find yourself in a very simple house with not much money to spare, use that space to bless others. You don't have to feel bad about any of that. Hospitality actually has nothing to do with you. Oh, you're the one that's going to have to put in the work. But hospitality is about them. This is not about proving anything to anybody about who you are. Celebrate the people that come into your house and fake it even if you don't feel it. Okay, we recoil at that fake it thing. We don't want to be fake. That's true. But hospitality is a Christian's duty, and like other things in the Christian walk, there are many times we need to do things when we don't feel like it, like giving forgiveness to someone that we don't feel like forgiving. My husband is really good at hospitality, and he thinks of people who could use a lift. He'll suggest sometimes inviting someone over or going to visit someone, and I have learned that most of the time, the thing to do is just agree with it and go along with it. Even if I really don't want to, pretty much 100% of the time, I'm blessed by it and glad we did it. So I just said to fake it if you need to, but also you have to really mean it when you're doing the hospitality thing. I have made it my aim to think positively towards anyone who comes in my door. Our attitudes towards the work that we need to put in to host is huge. Tell yourself you're going to be all in with treating these people like royalty. Give their baby the high chair even if yours would normally use it. Put the coffee maker on delay start for them if they're going to be leaving very early the next morning. Just be the servant. We visited Kenya this spring to see my sister-in-law and husband and their family. And we went to Rondo Retreat, which is a rainforest. And the Kenyans there served us like our meals, and they would bring us tea for tea time, and everything was beautiful. And I remember thinking that they seemed so willing to do whatever they could for us. Like, it was like they were looking for ways to serve us. And I thought, why would they serve me? I'm this rich American and who probably has a lot more than they do. I haven't done anything to deserve this. But it was like they had this constant smile on their face, and they were so happy to serve me. And that's what I want to do to other people. It doesn't matter who they are. If they have done something to gain this or not, if their status is up or down, everyone gets the royal treatment. That's what we're working for here. So we all want the perfect formula for how to host well. The thing is, we're all so different, and a formula that works for one person will probably just not work for another. We can't do it all, and yet we can do all that we need to. We can do enough. I remember in Sunday school one time, a young mom was despairing about, how it's so hard to keep up with the house and outside work, and how do we do this all, and just feeling helpless. And an older lady in that class just calmly said, "There's a way." And I know she didn't mean there's a way to do it all, because we all understand that's not possible, but there's a way to do enough. If you're feeling frustrated with hosting, or actually this goes for any area of life, can you single out a specific issue that you're struggling in? Remember, the big black trash bag energy isn't sustainable, and it doesn't work. You can have that energy, and it might work for a while, like where you have this big system that you're really is working for you, but that kind of energy just doesn't last a long time. Very, very tiny steps towards your goal are much more sustainable. You have to make it smaller. Make your problem smaller. Big problems require big solutions. Small problems require small solution, and those we can actually manage. So let's think about this. Let's just think about hosting. And let's say that food is your biggest frustration with hospitality. So you might say, "Oh, I'm just not that great at hospitality because I can't do food." Well, that's probably not true. You just have one main struggle in this one area. Okay, just saying that food is a big problem for me, that problem is way too big. See, there are so many parts to the food aspect. You have to plan the menu. You have to go shopping. Well, first you have to make the shopping list, and then you go shopping and buy the food. There's a lot of fingers to it. So think real specifically, what exactly about food stresses you out? Is it that you never know what to make? Is it that your amounts never seem to be right? Is it that you're never ready on time? So these are questions you can ask yourself in any area really of life that you're thinking of. Like, try to get real specific to why am I feeling this stress, and make the problem just as small as you can. So let's say that your answer to this question would be that you never know what to make. Okay, the menu just drives you batty every time. Let's think of some solutions. Maybe you could always make the same menu, for example, like when you're on for host at church. That would be one obvious answer. But there's many other answers that you could come up with just depending on what you like or what your life is like. You could pick one little thing to try as a start to make this particular thing a little less stressful. But remember, we're not trying to get rid of the stress. We can't do that. We're just trying to make this stress go down just even a little bit. Even a little bit down. If you do that in different areas of your life, it can make a collective difference. But just because something works for you right now doesn't mean it will necessarily 100% for the rest of your life. Don't look for some big perfect solution that's guaranteed to work for the rest of time. The season of life you're in really matters, and our seasons change all the time. So you might be adjusting your system pretty often based on which season of life you're in. But if you find something that's really working for you, do it. Do the thing until it doesn't work anymore. And when it quits working, don't think you're a bad person because it just didn't work. You can pivot and find another small solution to try. In your books, I have a list of just a bunch of random little tips you could try. I have a list of 8 on there. The last 2 9 and 10 didn't make it in your books. You could add them if you wanted. I'm just going to read over this list. If you are doing decor for something, think big rather than much. My style, I like to do just a few things that make a big splash, and rather than a bunch of little things. Like a few big balloons can make a real big statement and wow your guests more than a whole bunch of little stuff. People love a themed party. Anything can be a theme. You can have a pink theme, a lemon theme, anything. One thing you can do is find paper plates at Walmart or Target, wherever, and if you find some that you like use that as your theme. So if there's a butterfly on this cute plate, have a butterfly theme. That's just one tip. This is it only if you want to do this. This is my kind of party throwing. You don't have to do this at all. Always plan more time than you think it will take. Plan on it taking time and a half, as much time as you think it's going to take. I've recently really gotten into a 10-minute timer. I think that's a nice amount of time. Anyone can do 10 minutes. 10 minutes in this messy room, 10 minutes on the dishes. Work real fast for 10 minutes. My mother-in-law is an amazing host. She gave me the tip that you can choose to have either lovely food or a lovely table. You can get by with a very simple meal if you have it on a really nice table, and vice versa. You can get by serving something a lovely dish, like an amazing dish of food on a very plain table. Like Amelia Bedelia, focus on what you're best at. You get to decide what's most important to you. Focus on what you're good at. Start as far ahead as you can. If you're hosting on Friday, start the process on Monday. You want to be super willing to serve whatever your guests may need. However, if you jump up and try to meet everyone's needs immediately, they can feel uncomfortable or like they're being a bother. Be relaxed. Tell your guests to let you know if they need anything. And I think then Great Aunt Myra would tell you that you really know how to make a body feel at home. Don't apologize for things that aren't perfect. Be yourself. That's so cliche, but genuinely it's something I've been working on. I think in the past sometimes I was so I really wanted this person to know that I wanted them there and I cared about them, but I was focused so much on that it was I was a little tense. So just be yourself. That affects them. And one awesome question that you can ask yourself is, what can I do now that will make it easier later? When you're thinking of hospitality, hosting, what can I do now, today, that will make it easier then, less stressful? So in all of this, the state of our mind is a big deal. Sometimes it's almost annoying how big of a deal that is. Like, so much of our problems are right up in here, our minds. One time I was filling in for the food committee at a ladies' luncheon. I remember sitting on a bar stool in the kitchen, nursing my very young baby, thinking, this is ridiculous. I should not be the one doing this. Another young mom who's not nursing a baby should have been willing to fill in that day. I can't even do it. I'm sitting here feeding the baby while I should be helping the other food committee members. And I remember my very sweet aunt commending me about what I was doing. And she made the comment that often in situations like this, it's mostly about being able to keep our minds calm. Yeah, it was kind of crazy that I was there feeding the baby, trying to help with food and whatnot, but I've been learning that if I just tell myself, I'm okay, I'm doing great, this isn't too crazy, I'm okay, and intentionally slowing down my mind, and maybe even sometimes our steps, can totally change how we feel about the whole thing. Rest is a byproduct of a relationship with Jesus. We don't need to strive for rest, but if we are in a real relationship with Jesus, we will have rest. A couple of quotes, I think I have these in your booklets. I want to be so anchored in Christ that chaos around me does not produce chaos within me. Happiness is not the absence of conflict, but the ability to cope with it. When God says be still, he means to be still internally. He means to keep pushing forward, to be patient and calm, knowing that everything works itself out for our good. I know it is hard to shift the way we think, but we must be confident that God is with us and be flexible for change along the journey. We must live each day presently, grateful for life itself, enjoying the journey every step of the way, always still in our hearts. And schedule rest. Plan to rest. Did you know that even stepping outside for 2 minutes and just breathing in the air can be a way of self-care? Just step outside for 2 minutes and breathe deep. And maybe you'll be able to cope a little bit better again inside. My Aunt Rhonda, who is here today and who is an amazing hostess, had this quote in her kitchen many years ago, and I wrote it down. It says, "I shall pass through this life but once. Any good, therefore, that I can do, or any kindness I can show, let me do it now. Let me not defer or neglect it, for I shall not pass this way again." And I don't know how to say the name of the author, so I won't try. So, in closing, after I get off the stage, I am going to be playing a 5-minute video of a story from my life. But before then, being the party planner that I am, I had to bring you all party favors. And these are for you to take home with you if you want. They are Amelia Bedelia water bottle stickers. And you can put them on your water bottle or on your planner or on your notebook, where you need a reminder of how she is America's favorite housekeeper, even though she's such a dunce. And I hope that can be your encouragement. There are two different, it has the exact same picture and quote on it, but two different styles. So you can choose one, and if you don't want one, you don't have to take one. She came to me on September 15th, 2017. This beautiful, beautiful baby we named Shania Willow. She was absolutely gorgeous and had a lot of dark hair, which was a surprise after our firstborn was born with just a fuzz of red hair. But there was something else that came as a big surprise. Our beautiful baby had come with a limb difference. Basically, she was missing her right hand. The ultrasound I'd had during the pregnancy hadn't picked it up, and the doctors had no explanation for why this had happened. Shania had an imperfection. Oh, people would tell me that she's perfect, and although I know what they meant, and they were being kind, I actually disagree. I think the word they were looking for or meaning was that she is whole. She's totally whole in who God made her to be, and yes, in that way, perfect. But nobody prays for something like this. No one would actually choose this, no matter how accepting and positive they might be about it. We can be honest and say that, yes, this was a disappointment. I heard it in the voices of family members too when we called them to tell them the news that she had been born and was born with a deformity in her hand. That was hard and sad, but also it changed nothing about the way any of us accepted her. We loved her. She wasn't hard at all to love. If anything, we felt a more fierce love for her. And you know what? It's not about her imperfection. It doesn't define her or place any kind of mark on who she is. Shania just turned 7 and she is amazing. I think God took the genes that were meant for her hand and put them into her brain. She's very smart and school comes extremely easily for her. She was reading before kindergarten, and here's a picture of how she signed her name in kindergarten. I know, it's pretty hard to believe actually. From a very young age, she was doing things above average for her age. Neatly cutting paper when she was really young, stringing beads, climbing up high, anything. She would and does figure it out. There's nothing much she can't do. She takes her imperfection and Even though some stuff is hard for her, she finds a way. She adjusts. She doesn't let her weak spots limit her. She figures it out. She makes a way. And besides all those physical aspects, she's also kind and generous. And at least at this point in her life, she seems very secure in who she is. She so bravely handles the questions children have for her and calmly replies that she was just born that way. Even recently, this year at school, a boy told her that he couldn't stand to have a hand like that. So yeah, sometimes it's not much fun, but she's somehow already learning how to not let that little thing about her ruin her identity and security in Christ. She has so much to offer. And so do you. So do you. You are Amelia Bedelia, and you are Shania. There are things about you that you really don't like. They're imperfections, and maybe you have so many of them you don't even know what to work on first. But like Shania, you can find ways to adapt, adjust, figure out a way, and make it work for you. She needs to do many things that are uncomfortable and out of her comfort zone and that don't come naturally for her. She needs bravery. The name Shania means God is gracious. Yes and amen. He's gracious in her life, and He's gracious in yours.